They were America's sweethearts, child stars turned billionaires. But behind the fame, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen were battling pressure, control, and private pain. Their childhood was traded for an empire, and the cracks ran deep: eating disorders, betrayals, and a brush with Hollywood tragedy. The world watched them rise, but never saw the heartbreak. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen didn't chase fame, it found them. At just 6 months old, they were cast as Michelle Tanner on Full House, unknowingly stepping into the spotlight that would define the rest of their lives. The show's creator was drawn to how unusually calm the twins were around strangers. To comply with child labor laws, the girls alternated filming, but from the outside, it looked like one unstoppable star. As the show exploded in popularity, so did the twins' image. By the age of 6, they weren't just actors, they were producers, CEOs, and the faces of a growing empire. Their manager helped launch Dualstar Entertainment, turning them into a brand that dominated everything from movies to clothing lines. They were making millions before they learned long division. But while the world saw precocious success, no one asked what it was doing to two kids who never got to just be kids. Behind the polished image was a relentless grind. While other kids were riding bikes and going to sleepovers, Mary-Kate and Ashley were running a business. Interviews, shoots, meetings, it never stopped. Ashley once admitted they were deeply involved in every part of their empire before they even hit double digits. Mary-Kate later said she wouldn't wish their childhood on anyone, comparing their lives to being little monkey performers. Even Full House co-star John Stamos confessed they were almost recast in the early days because the job was just too overwhelming. But the machine couldn't be stopped. Their faces were everywhere, on lunchboxes, posters, and straight-to-video movies. And while the world cheered them on, the pressure to always smile, always perform, was already starting to wear them down. Just as Full House came to an end in 1995, the Olsen twins' real-life foundation collapsed. Their parents' marriage fell apart, and the divorce wasn't clean. Their father quickly remarried, and Ashley refused to attend the wedding, a quiet protest that said more than words ever could. Mary-Kate showed up, but the family's bond was already fractured. Their dad claimed everything was fine, but their mother stayed silent, holding back the weight of what had just happened. The timing was brutal. The show that had launched their fame was gone, and so was the stability at home. And even in the middle of this emotional chaos, the twins kept working. They went to school, posed for press, filmed movies, doing everything they could to appear normal, while everything underneath was falling apart. By the time Mary-Kate was 17, the cracks were impossible to hide. Rumors had swirled for years, but in 2004, right after graduating high school, she was quietly admitted to rehab for an eating disorder. Her father and therapist had intervened, fearing she might not survive much longer. Tabloids were ruthless, treating it like gossip instead of a cry for help. Even Oprah, known for her compassion, pressed the twins on live TV about their dress sizes, a moment Ashley tried to brush off, but couldn't hide the discomfort. Mary-Kate had been hiding it so well that even her co-stars didn't see it coming. She kept up appearances, smiled through interviews, and stayed in control, until she couldn't. In a rare moment of honesty years later, she admitted how hard it was to ask for help, saying she didn't want to go through life with her eyes shut. But at that point, the damage had already been done, and the world still wasn't done watching. College was supposed to be their escape, a chance to live like normal young adults. In 2004, the twins enrolled at NYU, even buying a $7 million penthouse to avoid the chaos of dorm life. But normal didn't last long. Mary-Kate started skipping classes, rumors of a second treatment stint surfaced, and the press swarmed every move they made. Spencer Pratt, reality TV's self-proclaimed villain, sold a photo of Mary-Kate at a party for $50,000, sparking a public feud that only made things worse. They couldn't go to class without paparazzi. They couldn't make a mistake without headlines. And it wasn't just photos. Creepy websites had begun countdowns to their 18th birthdays, turning their transition into adulthood into a public spectacle. Their every move was monetized, sexualized, and criticized. By the end of their first year, both twins had left school behind, not because they gave up, but because survival required it. The obsession didn't stop when they left school. If anything, it got worse. Tabloids treated them like public property, inventing scandals and crossing every line. Ashley once sued the National Enquirer for $40 million after it ran a photo implying she'd collapsed from drug use. The story was false, and the outlet eventually apologized, but the damage was already done. And it wasn't just headlines. Reporters asked invasive questions, even prying into their virginity before they were legally adults. Ashley later said it was her worst nightmare, being interrogated about the most personal parts of her life by strangers with cameras. No matter how successful they became, the media never let them grow up in peace. The world had watched them since infancy, and now it wanted access to everything, even if it meant tearing them apart to get it. Of all the stories tied to Mary-Kate Olsen, none are more haunting than her rumored connection to Heath Ledger. In 2008, just months before his tragic passing, reports claimed the two had been quietly seeing each other, not serious, but close enough to share late nights, cigarettes, and long conversations. When Ledger was found unresponsive in his Manhattan apartment, the masseuse who discovered him didn't call 911 right away. She called Mary-Kate twice. She was in California at the time, and reportedly offered to send her private security before emergency services were even contacted. When the truth came out, and the cause of death was ruled an accidental overdose, questions swirled. Why had Mary-Kate been the first call? What did she know? She refused to speak to federal investigators unless granted immunity. Eventually, the case was dropped, but the connection left a dark cloud hovering over her name. Another tragedy she hadn't caused, but couldn't escape. As the Olsen twins withdrew from Hollywood, one image started showing up everywhere, the two of them, dressed in black, chain-smoking. At first, they denied it. In a 2003 interview, they insisted they didn't smoke or drink. But soon, cigarettes became part of their public identity, almost like armor. Fans and photographers caught them lighting up on sidewalks, at fashion shows, even on their wedding day. Mary-Kate was scolded for smoking indoors at Fashion Week, but didn't seem to care. To some, it looked reckless. To others, it looked like rebellion, a small act of control in a life where nothing had ever truly been private. One writer described it perfectly. The smoking wasn't just a habit, it was a symbol. The public saw it as a flaw, but to the twins, it may have been the only thing that felt like theirs. While the spotlight often focused on Mary-Kate's struggles, Ashley was quietly fighting her own battles. In 2015, she was diagnosed with late-stage Lyme disease, a condition that left her drained, in pain, and unable to keep up with work. But just a year later, things got even worse. Ashley underwent a cosmetic procedure that went horribly wrong. The surgery triggered necrosis, a rare condition where tissue starts to die. Her face became swollen, bruised, and discolored. She had to undergo intensive oxygen therapy just to recover. The experience shook her, but even then, she didn't disappear completely. She pulled back from the public eye, stayed quiet, and focused on rebuilding her life behind the scenes. For someone who had spent decades being watched, silence became its own kind of power. In 2020, Mary-Kate's personal life unraveled in public once again. Her marriage to French banker Olivier Sarkozy had always raised eyebrows. The age gap, the awkward appearances, the mismatched energy. But when the pandemic hit, it all fell apart. With courts shut down, Mary-Kate filed an emergency petition for divorce, claiming Sarkozy was trying to force her out of their apartment and had terminated the lease without warning. Trapped by lockdown rules, she couldn't even retrieve her belongings. She fled the city and took refuge with Ashley and close friends. The chaos made headlines, but behind the drama was a familiar pattern. Once again, Mary-Kate's life was spiraling under pressure, and once again, she had to disappear to survive. After that, the twins pulled back almost completely. No interviews, no cameos, no public statements. Their silence was louder than ever, and finally, people started listening. In January 2022, the twins faced one final heartbreak, the sudden loss of Bob Saget. He wasn't just their TV dad on Full House. Off-screen, he had remained a steady presence in their lives, long after the cameras stopped rolling. They didn't return for the Fuller House reboot, but they never lost touch with Bob. He defended them in interviews, protected their privacy, and always called them his girls. When news of his passing broke, Mary-Kate and Ashley released a rare public statement, calling him the most loving, compassionate, and generous man. They attended his funeral quietly, without fanfare, just two women grieving someone who had seen them for who they really were. Not products, not headlines, just people. Today, the Olsen twins live almost entirely out of sight. No social media, no press appearances, no cameos. Their fashion label, The Row, is wildly successful, understated, high-end, and as private as they are. They've built a new empire, one they can control. But the cost of getting there was unimaginable. The world watched them grow up. It just never stopped to ask what that really did to them. Today, Mary-Kate and Ashley live in near total privacy. No interviews, no social media, no interest in the spotlight they grew up under. Their fashion empire thrives quietly, but the scars of fame run deep. They were never just child stars, they were a product, a brand, and a constant headline. And while the world watched them rise, it never stopped to consider what it was costing them. Their story isn't just about success, it's about survival.